I like that. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Fintech Fridays. I'm Brian View, President, Chief Operating Officer at FinLocker, and I'm joined today by Greg Sher, the Managing Director at NFM Lending. Greg, thanks for coming on my humble little podcast.
I am honored. Brian. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this conversation. You and I have been having this conversation, and now we get to share it with others. And you've been extremely generous with your sharing of what's going on at NFM Lending. And I just thought, with everything that's going on in the industry and this seemingly this movement towards consumer financial education and using social media as a strategy, there's nobody that's closer to this than you and NFM Lending. And so I'm happy to have you on and talk about this topic.
Here we are. It's exciting. We just wish rates would go down into that 4.5% or 5.5% range. Right now, they're kind of up there, but it's a good time to be retooling your business, our business, my business, everyone's business. Kind of take a look at sort of like three stages: where you've been, where we are now, and where you'd like to be headed. And what we're focused on here is more about where we're headed. And we feel like direct to consumer is going to continue to pick up market share, but not in the traditional way that we're accustomed to all the years. For people that have been in the business as long as I've been in it now, 26 years, think of direct to consumer as, let me pick up the phone, let me call a consumer, or let me send out a mail piece, or let me do a fax blast, or whatever mechanism it is that maybe you've used in the past. You wait for people to call in, and that's direct to consumer, and you have a call center waiting to take those calls. Now things are changing because of social media, and now suddenly you don't need to mail anymore, and you don't need to spend any money. You just need to focus on you and your brand and being trustworthy and emphasizing financial literacy, because this wave of homeowners that are bubbling up right now, namely Gen Z and the later stage millennials, a lot of them are digital natives. So they grew up with a phone in their hand, and they don't care who their mom used. They don't want to know that. They're not interested. They're going to make their own decisions. And this behavior has been modeled by 3 hours a day on average. Statistically, It's been proven on their cell phones. So, really direct to consumer now, the way it looks in our eyes and in my eyes, and I know to the same degree in your eyes, it's getting to the consumer through being trustworthy, social media channels, being an expert, a voice, an advocate, and being willing to address people and really invest in people that aren't ready now, that aren't going to be ready in 30 days, that won't be ready in 60. It might be 6 months. It might be a year. It might be 2 years.
Right.
And that's where I know FinLocker is doing a lot of great work and has had some incredible momentum. We have a relationship with you that we love that's yielded fruits. And I would consider everyone that's in the mortgage space to take a look at what you've built and how they can implement that. We started, a little slice of our pie, because we're always leery. And it's worked. And now we're looking at an even bigger relationship with you. So kind of to summarize, our vision is getting out on social media, being trustworthy, getting in front of consumers early in the funnel, and being willing to invest in the time frame it's going to take, which is longer than we're used to earn that business. So that kind of encapsulates what we're doing. We can get into the influencer division in a minute, but I'm going to come up for air.
All right. No, that's a great kind of intro into a deeper dive into the conversation. And we'll get into the influencer division specifically in a minute. One thing I would say is in the last 6 months, maybe the last 8 to 10 months in our industry, we've seen a lot of attention now on this social media strategy, right? This finfluencer strategy. And that means different things to different people, and we'll get into that in a minute. But it's really become a topic of discussion. It's now, I've seen you on panels at conferences. You've been on different, webinars and podcasts talking about this. Others have been doing the same. And again, it's a fairly recent attention grab, if you will, from an industry perspective. But then I think this is important. you've been at it for more than 10 months. You guys, this is not something you just kind of flicked the light on January 1 and said, hey, we're going to go do this.
No, we
And
started in November of 2020. That's when we started
exactly.
to, that's when we saw this unfolding. And we knew it would get to this point where it is today, but we've been working on this for, coming up on 3 years now. So we made a lot of mistakes. We made a lot of mistakes. I mean, on one hand, I think NFM was a pioneer. On the other hand, we made just a litany of mistakes because the book hadn't been written before. So, you mentioned I've been on panels and stuff like that. I'm 52. I'll be 53 in November. I've been in the business 26 years. And for the longest time, I felt like anything that I knew that led to a monetary gain, I needed to hold close to the vest. I think that's the natural, just human nature when you're running a business, right? But, as I've kind of crossed over into that second 50 years of my evolution in my life, definitely, my mindset has changed. I want to do whatever I can to help the industry out, because I know that we're at a pivotal stage in this industry, and that things are changing. And I don't believe that IMBs are prepared for what's ahead of them. I don't think they understand, the majority of them, certainly not going to say all, how to communicate with Gen Z in particular, what they want, the things they value, and just how long it's going to take to nurture these folks to the point where they're ready to do business and transact. Because we know most IMBs, they're concerned with, how can I make money in 30 days of getting that consumer? That's not what this is. But you can't you can't look the other way if you're an IMB and say, you know what, I don't want to go down that road because I just want to focus on this road, the 30-day road, not the 6-month road or the 3-month. The problem is this road over here, the traditional road, this 30-day road, that pie is going to go it's going to continue to be condensed because of the people that are entering the environment now and wanting to buy homes, and that's namely, Gen Z.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. This is not an either or, but it's going to continue to be a shift. And I think it's fair to say that at NFM Lending, you have a segment of your business today, probably a large segment that's still very focused on the point of sale, but over time it's going to go from 90 to 80 to 70 to 50%, and the shift is happening as we speak. And I think from what I've been watching, you've been very generous, as I said, with sharing, and I've had the pleasure of kind of seeing a little bit behind the curtains, if you will. This is not a fly by night, idea du jour type thing. You guys have built not just a strategy, but you built a model that can execute against the strategy. And I think that's what's important. This is not just about, creating a TikTok video and thinking that you're going to change the world. There's a business behind it and business processes that are important as well.
I think the traditional marketing is always going to be in place. You knock the number down to 50%. I think whether you did it on purpose or not, that's probably where this thing lands for the foreseeable future. Once the pendulum swings to where I think it's going to go, there'll be 1 out of every 2 consumers is probably going to want to still have that face-to-face element and want to have the realtor showing them around. But you've got to have that other 50% that's built to be able to serve those people that want to move fast, that don't necessarily want to talk to anybody until they're pre-qualified. I can tell you, of the 65,000 people that have raised their hands in just 24 months from seeing the videos that our team has produced, again, 65,000 people have seen videos 8 seconds to 2 minutes long in nature that are being posted for free organically by our influencers who also have forward traditional business.
Yep.
So they're not paid actors. We're not hiring anybody. They're putting up these videos. 65,000 people have raised their hands. Of those 65,000 people that have said, hey, NFM, we want to know more. We want to get into the funnel. We want to eventually buy a home through you. Educate us. 92% of those 65,000 people don't want a phone call.
Isn't that
They want to
amazing?
be emailed or texted.
Yeah.
And so that's very different than the world we grew up in.
Oh yeah.
Stunning, really. So you've got to have a good CRM, a system for being able to attack those folks right away with a human being on the other end of the line. It can't just be all AI because they've got a lot of hair on them. So the thought of AI is great, but it doesn't take long for it to get out of that AI box and for you to need a human. So we're of the mindset, just have a human there ready to interact with them via text and email. Now, of course, there are some canned things to get them off the fence, but when it comes to wanting to communicate, we're there for them. And it could be any hour of the day.
And I think that's important to note, because if it was just about AI, you would just create avatars to post your videos, and you know, and we've seen that in other businesses, consumer businesses. It doesn't work. And so I think again, watching what your team is doing, there is a very personal connection. And what's really fascinating to me is that this is not a cookie cutter approach that your team is taking to the market. Each of your influencers has their own personality, their own way of presenting. Some lead with humor, some lead with, education, some combine the two, and you have this edutainment kind of focus. But it's not like you all are creating a script and saying, say these words in this order with this tone and post it. It's each individual. And I think I wanted to drill in that a little bit, because you hit on this initially. You talked about the brand and using the brand. I think there's two flavors of the brand. And I would argue that the personal brand is actually more important than the corporate brand on social to begin with. And I'd love your take on that.
I don't think the corporate brand really plays in at all, other than just to be the backbone of the real brand, and that is the influencer. And we're okay with that.
Yeah.
Too many mortgage companies want to be the brand. You're not the brand, man. You're not the brand anymore. Your people are the brand. Get behind them. Get in the background. Just do whatever you can to support them and what they're passionate about. You're not the brand. And there are several mortgage companies out there that continue to talk about all the great things they're doing as an organization. They're missing the boat. I mean, every organization is probably doing great things, right?
Yeah.
But it's the people that are engaging the consumers who are the real brand and the real champions here. So I agree with you. We don't do scripting. We are definitely hands off. We have our rails and our parameters. You can't talk about several things without a disclaimer. Rates, terms, conditions. But none of our videos do that. A lot of our videos just are about successes we've had, failures we've had, and we share them with consumers, and it resonates. Every story is relatable in some way.
Yeah.
To somebody who's either bought a home or has heard stories of others that have bought a home themselves. So, there is an interesting thing that I'm keeping an eye on, Brian. You and I haven't discussed this, but as you mentioned, we've been doing this since late 2020, and you're seeing a lot of activity online right now. I can't get through my TikTok feed, my Instagram feed, my Facebook feed without somebody talking about how they're going to coach people on social media. What I'm seeing is a lot of emphasis on how you build your brand. So get on Instagram, be scripted, have something to say a certain amount of times a day. Yeah, you need to do that, but I'm not clear yet on how that converts to business. So, I think that we're at this inflection point where you've got to have, if you're going to be listening to those people that are telling you what to do on socials, and there's some incredible people out there doing great things, make sure that this link of being a brand is tied to this link of how you monetize it, and how you generate leads and how you treat those leads once they come in. A perfect example is this. A lot of this material out there from influencers, the majority of it is not paid for. So you're not geo-fencing in the traditional sense that we're used to. You can't just say, all right, I'm licensed in Maryland and Virginia. I'm going to throw a video up just for this audience. Whatever comes in, I'm going to reel it in. I'm going to cook it. I'm going to close it, all that. When you do a video, it's for the world.
That's right.
So you may be only licensed in Maryland and Virginia, but you might get 98% of your responses in states where you're not licensed. So how is your company prepared to tackle those people? Are you in an environment where you don't put your brand at risk because you're not able to talk to them about rates, terms, and conditions because you're not licensed in those places? At NFM, obviously, we've been at this a long time. Somebody comes in from any state, all 49 that we're licensed in, we have a loan officer waiting to talk to them. But that didn't happen overnight. And so when I talk about this idea of branding, and there's so much of it that's just flooding the market right now, make sure you have a real strategy for how you're going to convert that into leads. And when leads come in and they're not in places where you're licensed, are you or your company prepared to speak to those people? Because the danger is this. You make a great video, you finally hit the jackpot, you got your lottery ticket, you got 2 million views, you never thought you'd be able to do this. Oh my goodness, 1,000 people have reached out to you on your DMs or clicked your link and filled out information. The problem is 990 of those people are not even in the states you're in. How much time are you really going to spend on those 990 people? It would take you a month. Then what happens to your traditional business? You starve. You're not going to do that, right? So you've got to have this kind of all-encompassing strategy around this idea of, okay, the brand is one thing, but then how are you going to get it to leads? And then how are you going to tackle these leads in a meaningful way that doesn't tarnish your reputation and your brand? Because if you're putting all this time into your brand and you're not responding to half the people that are getting in touch with you just because you can't make money on them, you might as well just jump in the dumpster and set yourself on fire.
That's right. I mean, the reality of it is we're talking about social media, right? Last time I checked, there's a lot of comments that get put on posts on social media. Not all of them are positive, by the way. And so,
people typically go to the internet to complain. They rarely have something positive to say, right? So don't give them a reason.
I love that. I want to drill a little bit deeper into that individual influencer. So you've got, what are you guys up to? 15, 16, 20, influencers today?
14-ish.
14. So you just posted, and this is going to be, we're going to publish this in mid-August. So, and we're in early August today, just so everybody can kind of see behind the scenes here. You just posted something the other day, amazing statistics around views of your videos, and you hit on a little bit of the lead flow. In a typical week, what kind of activity are you seeing across those 14 influencers today in terms of the number of views on the videos and turning into leads? And then I know you're actually turning leads into loans, and again, I've got a little bit of the behind the curtain access to that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so we have a meeting every Friday, all hands on deck meeting of all of our influencers, everyone involved in the influencer division, which we launched officially in January of 2022. So it took us 12, 13 months to even get this idea up off the ground to a place where we were comfortable enough to say, all right, world, we've got this influencer division. To answer your question, it varies on the views, obviously, but we've gotten as many as 14 million views in 1 week. 14 million views.
That's a lot of mailers if you were doing direct mail, isn't it?
Yeah, that would be a lot of mailers, but they would all cost, anywhere from 50 cents if you were snail mailing it to $1 a piece.
Yeah.
So our metrics are total views, total likes. Those are around 500,000 a week. Total shares. So that's somebody liking a video so much they're sharing it with their followers. That's around 600, 700,000 a week. Wait a minute. That's not right. Last month we had 125,000 total shares. So that actually is around 32,000 shares a week. And then in terms of comments, we average about 5,000 comments a week. And so the month of July, here's some metrics, what the influencer division was able to produce. And these are on my LinkedIn. Brian, I don't know if you have the ability to put me up, my profile up on LinkedIn.
I'll share it when we post this for sure.
Yeah, it's under Greg Sher, Gregsher. But in the month of July, we had 1,400 leads come in, 281 new files started, 45 pre-quals. Yes, we got all the way to the point where we're ready to pre-qual somebody. They're ready to go shopping. We funded 20 units. But then there's also the self-generated aspect of this. So,
Right.
What the numbers I'm going over right now, folks, it's 100% what was driven in by these short form videos on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Reels, and YouTube, because we're on all those verticals. So that's what I'm discussing now. Those were those statistics. Those same loan officers who, again, all work for NFM, they have realtor business too, which is separate.
Right.
So to give you an idea of the kind of activity that this division has generated, keep in mind, in the face of the most violent interest rate headwinds we've seen, most of us in our careers, in the last 24 months. I just pulled these numbers yesterday. 1,100 loans closed for just over 400 million in volume in the last 24 months. Combination of videos that turned into loans and the real estate agents that have an allegiance to these influencers that give them leads and the loans close. That's a lot. It's a lot of business. It makes you wonder, like your head spins like, well, what is it going to be like when rates are at 4.5 or 5?
Well, there's that for sure. But there's the other aspect, and this is where my mind goes in this channel all the time, is this is just my bias or my belief on this, but I believe by a long shot, the majority of the engagement are longer nurture home buyers. They're not necessarily ready right now, emotionally or financially. They're in that, getting educated, learning about what this means kind of process. And so this thing is going to continue to yield benefit month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year. And again, I go back to the infrastructure behind the influencer that you've built, that is built to continue that engagement with those consumers.
Yeah, and I have some data, just Gen Z alone, that I'll read. I'm not sure if I'm in a position to share my screen or if I should just read it off.
Yeah, just read it off, because
All right, no problem. So
I don't have a producer for this podcast, man. You're looking at the director, producer, and the host.
So this is a year sample of folks that are 18 to 26, which that's Gen Z. So these are all Gen Zers. So we've got just under 2,000 of them in this data. And of the 2,000 Gen Zers that responded to our videos in the last year, so about 1,900 rather is the actual number, 1,902, 23% of them want to buy ASAP. 26% of them want to buy in the next 1 to 3 months. 27% are 3 to 6 months, and 23% are 6 months and beyond. So, I mean, that really hits home here, right? This is real data coming from real Gen Zers that are 18 to 26 that have an appetite to buy a home, that raised their hands and said, this is where I am in the process. 1 out of 2, 50% of them, based on this real sampling of 1,900, are 6 months and beyond. And so are you prepared to deal with those folks? The other thing is, if you're willing to invest in yourself, invest in your business, which brings this conversation full circle when I talked about the business, looking at it through 3 lenses. Where have you been? Where are you now? Where are you going? If you really want to look at this high level and build your business out in a sustainable way that will make you an outlier in a great way, these borrowers don't have real estate agents yet.
Right.
So if you're willing to invest and put the time in to earning their business and their trust, you're going to have a pre-qualified borrower that you can then go and find a real estate agent with. And you know what that does to your business, right? That changes the whole narrative. Because most of you that are watching this that are LOs, You do what everybody does. Nothing wrong with it. You call a realtor. You say, let me have your turn downs. Let me have, how's your lender doing? Can I be a backup just in case? Imagine being able to go to a realtor and say, look, I'm interviewing realtors because my business is so hot
Yeah.
that I'm looking for a realtor in your area to hand pre-quals to. And if you don't believe me, here's Mr. Jones. I just pre-qualled him. And if you do your research up front, you know that you have an agent on the other end of the line that does 20 transactions a year, 40, 60. If you do your homework up front, you'll be willing to hand them that bait, right? Which you need tools for that. You need to have, some tools out there to know what realtors do. We know what all the tools are.
By the way,
I don't promote anything other than FinLocker here. I'm not mentioning any other companies, even though I am wearing this Trust Engine T-shirt.
And we're all big fans of Trust Engine for sure. Let's go. We're going to go overtime a little bit on this podcast because there's some gold in what you just shared in terms of flipping the script, whatever you want to call it, right? From a loan officer now being the lead source, the referral source for agents. We haven't rehearsed this.
Does my fee increase if we go overtime? I need to let my accountant know.
I will agree right now on this podcast on camera to increase our agreed upon rate by 30%.
That's amazing. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank
checks
you.
in the mail.
I appreciate that.
So you're 14 influencers today. In total, what's their followers? How many followers?
A little over 4 million followers.
Okay, 4 million. We've already talked about the views per week and the engagement and the shares and all that. By the way, do you think realtors are following some of those influencers?
Definitely. Yeah, of course they are. Yeah.
Do you think they're paying attention to the number of followers and the engagement in the comments?
I'm not sure about that, but I think that they all notice their business is changing, and that. See, here's the thing. This is why it's not avoidable. Market share is being gobbled up for LOs. It's being gobbled up by real estate agents. Everybody already knows it.
Yeah,
you can see it, and that is going to continue to grow. And so, whether agents want to believe it or see it, because there are a lot of traditional old school agents out there who see it, but they're like, I'm only going to be in the business 5 or 10 more years. Do I really need to focus on this? I'm never going to be in front of the camera. What's it matter?
Right.
That might work, but the future, the agents that are coming up, the consumers that are coming up, the LOs that are coming up, they all have to pay attention here. But I think it just depends, Brian. I know that every day more agents are trying to get involved in social media. Every day more loan officers are trying to get involved in social media.
Yeah.
50% of them are probably doing it because they're passionate about it and it's their generation. The other 50% are probably like, oh my goodness, like this LO down the street who knows 1/10 as much as I know about mortgage was able to steal my agent. Because that agent wanted to learn about social media and I couldn't help him. But this other guy or girl's blowing up.
Yeah. That's my perception would be, some subset, if not all of your influencers have absolutely had to have seen an uptick in inbound agent activity coming their way, whether it's asking for advice on how to create content or asking if they can be one of their preferred partners on the referral side. And so
we get dozens every month. I get text messages from my influencers. Oh, here's a real estate agent, a broker out of Nevada with 70 agents. They want to partner with us and learn how we're doing what we're doing. Those opportunities are almost daily.
Yeah, that's the other side of it, right? And again, I'm in your cohort, a little bit ahead of you, a few years ahead of you in terms of age cohort. Last question I have, and you kind of already hit on this. I don't believe social media is only for the younger cohorts and generation. I actually think that there are loan officers of our cohort who have decades of experience. They've been through different cycles and they've kind of seen and lived through this business that have immense knowledge that if they were to turn the camera on and just start talking about what they know would add tremendous value to consumers. And I know at least a handful of your influencers are in our cohort, so to speak. And I know that they're having success in this business, in this model. And anything to share on that?
Age doesn't matter.
Right.
That's just the story you're telling yourself. Turn on the camera, start making content, talk about stuff you're knowledgeable about, you're passionate about, show that passion, show that knowledge. You will gain traction almost immediately. We have a 52-year-old male who never had social media, who saw what we were doing. He was open-minded enough to say, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot. Turned his camera on, has over 10,000 followers on TikTok. He's now blowing up on YouTube. He closed 10 deals in his first year of doing this that he otherwise would have never been able to close. He goes places, walks into open houses, and half the time agents are like, you're the buy not rent guy.
Yeah.
I've seen your stuff. So yeah, it's for everybody. There's nobody that can't do it. Having said that, if you 100% are a dead set against it, it doesn't mean that you can't participate in this momentum. You can hire a micro influencer in your market. Those are folks with 10,000 to 50,000 followers who can rep your brand for a fee. You can do digital advertising. That's another option. You can hire an outside firm to put together content for you. You can bring in somebody that's really passionate about social media just out of school to make these videos, who's more comfortable, and they can rep your brand. There's a lot of ways you can go if you're absolutely dead set against putting the time and effort and energy into being in front of the camera. I get it. I understand. It's daunting. And if you're not in it for 5 years or longer, you got to look at the ROI. Do I want to keep doing what I've been doing for 25 years? I've made a good living, or do I want to pivot? So I think the point is, though, that there's an avenue for everyone out there to participate in what's happening right now. I do want to ask you a question, Brian.
Yeah.
Before we hang up, I know you're interviewing me, but statistically speaking, a third of the people that come in through these social channels are not quite ready to buy yet. So of the 65,000 people that we've been able to pull in through our social media strategy, about a third of them have a score below 580. And I know there's a lot of things that we've seen at FinLocker that touch on those consumers and kind of meet them where they are. And that's been helpful to us. Can you just touch on that? Because I think that really brings this thing full circle. I don't want folks to think that you put out a video and all of a sudden everybody qualifies, right?
Yeah, no, thanks for that, by the way. But I actually think that it's the FinLocker-like solution plus the personal, the expertise, the knowledge, the educator that the finfluencers are combined that creates the value. And so to your point, we've seen success where folks engage with an influencer's content, acknowledge they're not ready, and absent a tool like FinLocker to actually capture and engage them, they're going to go do something somewhere else. And it might be they're going to go get Credit Karma, Credit Sesame. They're going to go download mint.com and start to create budgets and track their finances there. Or I'll say this, or worse, they're going to go to Rocket Money and engage and download the Rocket Money app. And guess what? They're now in the ecosystem of the billion-dollar marketer, the big brand. And what we've seen the FinLocker technology be able to do is supplement and ride alongside, and in some ways amplify the value that the influencers are providing from an education perspective by now providing a set of digital financial tools that will help track and monitor and give tips on improving credit, help track and monitor budgets and savings for down payment. And we go a little bit deeper than some of those other apps where we actually are focused on an outcome, and that outcome is mortgage readiness. So we help the consumer understand where they stand today and along the way, and then that is shared with the sponsoring lender loan officer so that there's a connection point using the technology to again help engage and nurture that consumer for the 6+ months that they're going to take to get themselves to a place of readiness. So
yeah, and the thing I'll say about that, having looked at everything out there, Rocket Money, Rocket Mortgage, they've got a million verticals. So I mean, your main focus, your 100% of your focus is FinLocker,
Right.
right?
That's it. Yeah.
So I mean, that's all you do. And the other thing is companies are able to private label what you have. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's FinLocker's the engine behind it, but you want to drive value to the market, you can do that all on your own and look and
Yeah.
have
This
it
is
appear
not.
to be your proprietary software. And
Yeah.
you've
I
had,
love that.
I know you're interviewing me. I'm not interviewing you, but I know you've shared some of your great success with me as far as what it's yielded when people have private labeled and announced they have an app that can do all these things. It's been bananas, the amount of
Yeah.
traction that companies have been able to get.
It's
So,
fun to see, but to me it ultimately speaks to this conversation, which is the power of social. And so we've seen clients that don't have a social channel compared to those that do, that use the same product, different branding, of course, because you said it's white label. And I would tell you, we're seeing 5 to 10x the uptake engagement where social is being used, and it's pretty powerful. And the ultimately the engagement of the user in the app is even stronger than kind of in the non-social channels. So a lot of good learnings there for us, and it's helped us really continue to enhance the experience and improve the ultimate execution on it.
I just had to ask a question because I know we're going to wrap up here. What would you say the odds would have been that we both would show up to this wearing pink?
Well, I would have put it at, well, the fact that I wore a collar today is changes everything. So
That's amazing. I've never seen you do that.
no, I rarely, but I had a special guest. I mean, I had to kind of show
let
up.
me know when they show up.
Greg, this has been a blast. I always enjoy talking with you. I'm glad we were able to share this conversation with the industry. Keep doing the wonderful things you're doing. I truly appreciate the transparency that you have on your channel. I do think you're helping elevate the industry, and for that, I'm grateful.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.
All right, man. Well, everybody, thanks for coming in. Tune back in next Friday, and have a great weekend.